This lesson today is about dynamically adding controls to a web form. As you can see, I've got Visual Studio open and I've just got a simple form right now, default.aspx. I've added a couple of buttons. I've added this add control button, which to begin with, I'll start simple and I'll just add a text box to my form every time I click this button. I've got this dynamic controls holder, which is just a placeholder control. As you can see, it's this placeholder control right here that I've added, and then I've added another button down here, submit form, which will just capture the information from all the dynamic controls that I've added. And to show that I've done that, I've added this contents message label here. This is just a simple label. I'm just going to add the text of all the elements, the name of the text boxes that were added, and then all the text that was inside of each of those text boxes, just to display that we can go ahead and capture that information. To start with, let's go ahead and click on this add control button, and we'll just start very simply by just creating a new text box control. Text box txt equals new text box. Simple enough. And once we've added the text box, we're going to add it to our our dynamic contents holder control. We'll say dynamic contents.controls.add txt. Now, initially this seems very simple, just like adding controls to a Windows form, so on. We think that this might be enough, but we'll go ahead and see that this is actually not going to be enough. Let's go ahead and run it, and we'll just see that yes, we can add a control very quickly, but there's a little bit of a gotcha that's associated with that, and we'll see that here in just a second. Here we go. We've got our add controls button and the submit form, so I'll click on add control. And sure enough, it adds a new text box. I can go ahead and type into here. This is a text box. And when I click add control again, or let's go ahead and click submit form. I haven't added any code to that. But you notice when I click submit form that the text box is gone. The problem is here when I'm dynamically adding controls, these controls are just added to the output of that form at that moment, but there's no way to maintain that. There's no way that the form maintains that position. When we add controls at design time, so we can see here, so we can close the form. When we add controls at design time, what happens is those controls are placed in the web page itself, and each time the form gets processed, the ISAPI.NET, ISAPI, ASP.NET, ISAPI DLL processes that form, and it recognizes each of these tags that are in here and places them back onto the output. When we dynamically add a control, well, we've added it that one time and we've placed it to the output, but it's not been added to the actual page that gets processed next time. So we actually need to reprocess that control every single time. There are several different ways to do that. One of the ways that I really like doing it, and that we'll just take a look at right now, is adding the control, or adding something that indicates that we have control into the view state. So we actually pass that out to the view state of the page, so the next time the page gets processed we can go ahead and pull it from view state again and reprocess that. Now that's not always going to be ideal. You may want to store it in a database, or you may want to store it in a session variable. There's lots of different ways that you can do it, and each of them has their benefits and their drawbacks. Just depends on what is it you're trying to accomplish. For this particular tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the view state. So in addition to adding a control to the control box here, what I want to do is I need to give it, I need to add it to the view state. In addition to adding it to the view state, well, let's take a look. What I'd like to do whenever I access the view state, I don't like to access the view state directly inside of here. I like to have a property that allows me to get access to the view state. It just keeps it a little bit cleaner rather than creating the same logic multiple different places. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a property that allows me to get access to just a list. So we'll say public. Actually, this can be private since it's only going to be accessed from this page. Private will create a list of strings. The reason I'm creating a list of strings is that this will just store a list of the IDs of the text boxes that we're going to have. I can't add controls directly to the view state because controls aren't serializable, and the view state, anything that goes in the view state has to be serializable, or I should say a list of controls is not serializable, so it can't be added to the view state in a list like this directly. So we'll call this controls list. If I were to try to add just a list of controls, I would get not a compile error but a runtime error because it wouldn't be able to serialize them at runtime. What I'll do first of all is I'm just going to check to see whether or not that list, whether or not the view state actually has something in it. So we'll just check if view state controls is null. Then we'll go ahead and create a new reference, a new instance of it. New list of strings. And then we'll just simply return view state, controls. So as you recall, in the view state, whenever I store anything in the view state, it's just stored directly as a object. So I have to typecast it as the type of object that it is before I can return it. In this case, it's a list of strings. That's what I'm going to return. Check to see what's in here. Make sure that it actually exists before I try to return it. If it doesn't exist the first time, then I'll go ahead and create a new instance of it, and then we'll go ahead and return that new instance. So we should be safe there every time. In addition to that, since I'm going to be adding multiple text boxes, I want to make it simple to be able to just see what the next ID of my list box should be. I'm just going to simply name text box. I'm going to simply name them text 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, just as I add new text boxes. So an easy way to get the next ID, we'll just create another private int next ID, not indexer, but int, and we'll just say get, and we'll return controls list dot count +1. So we'll take whatever the count is, however many items are currently in the controls list, and we'll just add 1 to it, and that'll give us the next ID that we want to add to it. So now for each of these text boxes, I want to give it an ID because I want to uniquely identify them so that I can access them later. So I can just say text.id equals text box. We'll use the Microsoft default convention, text box plus next ID dot toString. Once we've added that, we've added the ID to it. We'll go ahead and add it to the text box. We'll also add, just to kind of keep them a little bit clean, we'll add dynamic controls holder dot controls dot add new literal control. We'll just add a line break behind each text box so that we can have each text box just on a single line to display those. If you ever want to add any plain text like this line tag, you just want to use literal control, and you actually add it as directly as a control as well. So I've gone ahead and added that there. Now I want to go ahead and in my controls list dot add, we'll just add txt.id. As I noted before, this is the controls list that we've got right here. In our controls list, simply a list of strings. It's just going to be the ID of each of the text boxes that I've gone ahead and added. Once we've added them to the view state, that's great to add them to the view state, but what we need to do is we need to go ahead and process them again every time the page reprocesses, because once the page gets posted back, we need to take what's ever in the view state and reprocess that. Now we can go ahead and do that in the page load, but generally when something is done inside the page load event, we're expecting that all the controls are already processed. At this point in the page load, generally we have access to all of the controls. So really we should be able to we should be able to have access to all of the text box or all the controls that are already available inside of there. So I like to do it before the page load event happens. Now there's a few different events that can occur before the page load happens. Number one, easy way to take a look at them is we'll just take a look at protected, override, and of course there is the on pre-init event. The on pre-init event certainly happens before the page load event, and if I was pulling records from a database, I would be able to use the on pre-init event. I'm not going to use the on pre-init event, and I'll explain that in just a moment, but there's another event that we want to take a look at here. Protected, override, load view state. There's another load view state event that happens here. Notice that both the on pre-init and the load view state make calls by default to the base.load view state, saved state, and base.onPreInit. If I'm going to write any code inside of here, it's generally a good idea to go ahead and allow it to call the base.load view state or base.onPreInit first, because it needs to be able to load the view state just as it normally would. The only thing that I want to do is I want to add my own additional logic to that as well. What I want to note here is the onPreInit event happens before the load view state event happens. So if I was to try to access this controls list that I've saved to my view state inside the onPreInit event, I would be accessing an object or a view state that doesn't exist yet. So because the load view state hasn't happened yet, the base's load view state event hasn't fired, and so I haven't actually gotten access to anything that's inside the view state. So anything that I've put into the view state, I will not have access to inside of the onPreInit event at this point. That's why I'm going to go ahead and do this in the load view state. In fact, if I was to try to access something in the view state before this load view state, it actually causes this load view state to not fire again because I've actually accessed the view state before that. So if I tried to access this controls list, because I'm actually trying to save something, because I'm trying to create this view state object here, it won't even get to the load view state, and we can take a look at that in just a moment. But I know that if I'm in the load view state, I would be able to go ahead and use this controls list. If we take a look at this again, the controls list is just a list of strings that is being stored in the view state, and so I'm returning something from the view state. So I can say for each string text ID in controls list. All I'm going to do from here is I'm going to create a new text box, txt equals new text box. With the text box, I just want to set its ID again, equals txt ID, because I'm storing it inside of there. And then, well, I'm just going to go ahead and add dynamic controls holder. I'm going to add these same 2 lines of code. I guess I could have put that elsewhere, so I'm not duplicating code. In this case, I'll just go ahead and copy and paste. So we're just going to add this new text box we've added, and then the literal control BR just to have the line. Now I don't need to add anything to the view state here again because it's already in the view state. I'm just pulling from there. Let's go ahead and run this. You can see I've got my add controls button. I'll go ahead and click add control. When I click add control again, you'll see that it now saves that control and it adds the text box, it adds a new text box below that again. Also, if I want to type into the text box, when I want to hit submit the form, you'll notice that even though I had to process that, it's actually storing all the information just like you'd expect from in the view state. It actually stores the values of the form inside of there. With my form contents, obviously I haven't processed anything here yet, so I need to add some code to see how we can get at that information that we've processed. Now we have this method right here, this event handler submit click. All I'm going to do is for each control CTL in dynamic controls holder dot controls. I'm just going to loop through all the controls. Now you'll want to remember that I've also added some literal controls, so the text, the BR tags are in there as well. So I don't want to access those directly, so I'm just going to check to make sure that I'm dealing with the text box. If CTL is text box, making sure that I'm working with a text box control, then I can say text box txt equals CTL as text box. Now I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a text box because I'm looped through them. It's generally a good idea. The reason I'm using CTL as text box is because if it's not a text box, it's just going to return null. I could just say if CTL is not equal to null, I'll go ahead and process. In fact, I could have probably done that instead of testing for it up here, but this will work just fine. If CTL is not equal to null, then we'll go ahead and say, oh, I need a string builder object. I've already had a reference to system.text equals new string builder, and I'm just going to append. We'll just sb.append txt.id. I'll add the ID, then a colon, and then just specify what the text is inside of there. txt.text, and I'll just add a line break. Just so we can see on the different lines. Now, of course, once I've added this to it, I don't want to forget outputting that information. Let's see what we called it. It's the contents message label, so we'll just say after we've looped through all the controls, that would be after the for loop, we can now say contents dot text equals sb.toString. Oh, I defined the string builder inside of the loop. Put that out here. sb.toString, and I don't like all this messy code. I like the proper indentation. Easiest way to do is just select all and then do Control K, Control D, and it will properly indent everything for us. Alright, so we run this form again. We can see that okay, here we go. So as we've got our form again, we can add our controls. It's just going to add a text box. First time it just adds one. We'll just add a few of them. Adds one, adds two. I'll add 4 text boxes here and we'll deal with that. Okay, we'll just say this is a test. And when I submit the form, you'll see that it goes through and it's just called text box 1. This 2 is 3 test. So we can see that I was able to get all the information from each of the controls. Now, because I'm dynamically adding the controls, of course, somehow you need to keep track of the names of all the controls so that you can actually access them. In this particular demonstration, all we did was added text boxes. You could get a lot more fancy and add combo boxes, radio buttons, whatever type of control you want to add. You just need to have some way of determining which type of control it is that you're going to add, and you need to have some way of tracking that. All that can be done in the ViewState or in a database or in a session. Some way to persist which type of controls you're going to add.